This report chronicles a scheme by the President of the United States to coerce an ally, Ukraine, that is at war with an adversary, Russia, into doing the President's political dirty work. It involves a scheme in which Donald Trump withheld official acts, a White House meeting, as well as hundreds of millions of dollars of needed military assistance in order to compel that power to deliver two investigations that he believed would assist his re-election campaign.
It doesn't raise me any concerns. When I talked to Devin, when I first heard a CNN report that said Devin went to Vienna, and it was reported on the news, continued to repeat it. Have you talked to Devin? Was he in Vienna? The answer is no. And I think Devin's following forward like he should do.
There was not any these phone records.
That's a totally different thing. You said about the phone logs that Devin's talking to an individual. I don't have a problem with Devin talking to individuals. What was claimed about Devin on CNN, on a national news media, is that he went to Vienna to meet with individuals. He was not in Vienna. That was a lie. Just like many lies before, and it seems like a perpetual thing of what we do. This was brought forth by Adam Schiff, who said he didn't know who the whistleblower was, who said he had proof beyond circumstantial evidence, who said today at this podium that he didn't know where he would be on impeachment when he told the entire nation that he's going to throw him back to that golden throne? No, I have no concerns. Yes.
So we're following up on Congressman. Yes. Two questions. One, given that we have these records and they're showing him having these conversations at some key moments, and accepting your contention that there was nothing wrong here, should Congressman Nunes explain what these conversations and interactions were? My second question is, do you have concerns that this stuff ended up in this report from Chairman Schiff? Is it appropriate for him to put a fellow congressman's call records out there like this?
When it comes to Adam Schiff, I have a lot of concerns. You can't remember whether he met with the whistleblower, who it was. The whistleblower has a hard time remembering when it goes to why when they brought forth the IG, why are those transcripts not made to the public yet? Adam Schiff has a long history with a problem of telling the truth. Adam Schiff also has a long history to do anything above and beyond, and even lie, if it takes to impeach the president. We're just finding another place where Adam Schiff is doing it one more time. Devin Nunes has a right to talk to anyone. What they accused of Devin Nunes of doing, of going to a country that he was not at, and as a job of being on the Intel Committee is something that Devin has to travel, and Adam Schiff would know exactly where Devin was traveling at that time. But to perpetuate a lie is nothing new to Adam Schiff. Perpetuate a lie because this man only wants to impeach the president is something we come to expect.
Should he discuss what happened on those phone calls?
It's a question for Devin, but Devin has the right to talk to people. There's nothing wrong that Devin has done, except once again to try to get accused of something. It is a simple smokescreen. I wish you'd ask the same questions. What did Adam Schiff say to the whistleblower? Why did the whistleblower come to Adam Schiff before he ever had an attorney? Why did Adam Schiff go to the American public and start this nightmare over the idea that the administration was going to withhold the whistleblower from coming before the committee, and he was going to fight so hard to make that happen? The only person that's withholding the whistleblower from coming forward is Adam Schiff. This is a man that didn't even take the same rules that has been allotted to anybody else in the same position. He rewrote the rules so only he can pick who comes before the committee. He rewrote the rules for how the committee to work, that he would get the first 45 minutes. He has tried to design everything he can to get an outcome that he desires, but the only problem that he lacks is the truth. And it's just one more example of it. Thank you.
Melber, you've just joined me on set. How do you do this? As a lawyer yourself, what do you do when the other side is refusing to acknowledge the
Well,
truth?
I'll show you with the visual aid. We have the whole report, and we don't claim to have read it all because it is this thick, hundreds of pages, and we're going through it as teamwork, as you've been going through it with our colleagues and experts. One thing that jumps out to me in what we're actually learning here is this is a two-pronged attack. Many people had said, will it be a 3 or 4-pronged attack? It's really 2 prongs.
Yep.
1, the misconduct alleged against Donald Trump, and 2, the obstruction. I would note the obstruction is not in doubt at all because the president has said that he won't participate with a fair process. He's attacked the process, but everyone knows he's not participating. And so the last 100 pages of this whole report go over that. The first 140 plus pages or so go through what we learned in the hearings with new details, with new evidence, basically laying out the case that Donald Trump didn't just do a single phone call or a single request or a single favor, but rather that there was an orchestrated, very formalized conspiracy to try to get this attack on Joe Biden executed through the help of a foreign government and through that help being allegedly extorted. So I think we're seeing the outlines here. The Judiciary Committee tomorrow obviously can build on this case. They can add to it under the rules. But this report says there's 2 big things Donald Trump did wrong. 1, he misused the power of his office to try to win re-election. And 2, he engaged in a cover-up to obstruct the investigation into that.
The impeachment report has a welcome surprise. New proof in the form of phone records. They raise some questions, but more importantly, they answer others. About what? Knowledge, involvement of people around this president and Trump himself and his chief defender, the ranking member of the very committee doing the investigation, Republican Devin Nunes. Now, in the $435 million suit that Mr. Nunes filed against CNN today, he attacks us for reporting anything that could come from Giuliani associate Lev Parnas. He calls Parnas a fraud and a hustler. Well, if it's not okay to get information from Parnas, how does Mr. Nunes explain this? 4 separate phone calls with Parnas with his name on them. Why didn't he mention them when he kept arguing that there was nothing to any of this talk about Parnas and Rudy's efforts? Well, I guess the answer may be in the question. Regardless, it telegraphs a lot, and the timing is key. 2 rounds of phone calls, April 10, April 12. Why? Same time, Trump mouthpiece and Fox employee John Solomon starts publishing stories hyping the Russian-backed fiction. Ukraine actually messed with the 2016 election, not Russia. Solomon was working the phones with Giuliani. Giuliani was in touch with Nunes and Parnas, as well as the folks in the White House and the OMB. Mick Mulvaney still runs it. He's the acting chief of staff. They're in control of when the aid goes. That's early April. After Mueller's finding went to the DOJ, early April, but before the full report came out. So the question is raised. So were they hustling to create a distraction from the Mueller report? Some suggestion that Ukraine is behind this election interference. Forget the Russia report. Then, less than 2 weeks later, on April 23rd and April 24th, another series of calls between Giuliani, Parnas, and White House officials. So one thing's for sure, this Parnas is not just some, guy on the outside who doesn't know anything. He's in there. Now we know that Rudy took credit for getting the U.S. ambassador removed, but the day she was ordered home, he talked to the White House 8 times, all right? The next day, Joe Biden officially announced he was running for the White House. That's all before you even get to the president's self-proclaimed perfect phone call with his Ukrainian counterpart. We now know for sure what the president wanted. The question for the Democrats is, can you show that that's why aid was withheld? Now, that takes us to August 8th. Mark Sandy at OMB, the agency that controlled the aid, remember, he testified. He says at about that time, Trump's political appointee at OMB took control of the money that was supposed to be going to Ukraine. Why? Sandy complained that the hold on that aid may be illegal. August 8th, Giuliani made some 19 calls or texts with either the White House or OMB. Around the same time, Sondland, Volker, Giuliani, they're talking deliverables with Ukrainians. Same time he's with OMB about who controls the money, they're talking with Ukraine about what they have to do to get the money. The only piece of evidence that muddies what seems to be a clear effort to pressure Ukraine to go after the Bidens and some conspiracy theory if they wanted the money is when one phone call. This mysterious September 9th phone call where the president said all the right things to Sondland. Remember, he made those notes, checked every box. He even used the Latin phrase that the whistleblower did in the complaint that wouldn't come out until later, but was already known about by the president. The Intel report points this out. A call on September 9th, which would have occurred in the middle of the night, is at odds with the weight of the evidence, but more importantly, not backed up by any records the White House was willing to provide Ambassador Sondland. If that call didn't exist or whatever is confused with another call, then what proof is there that this president wasn't doing exactly what it looks like? If Mueller had phone records like this, who knows what else he would have brought to bear in that probe. Now, they once again inform the obvious. This wasn't one perfect call. It was a highly imperfect alliance of lots of pieces, players, all in the service of a POTUS with a poisoned pursuit. One that appears to have started as a cover for the Mueller report and culminated with a president abusing his power by pressuring a foreign power to help him politically. Now, if there are other explanations for the calls and the testimony, we welcome it. This is about the truth. But choosing to ignore all this only makes what it looks like look more obvious.
Is this how it's going to read? I'm asking this dead seriously. Is this where we're going to get the wording in what used to be the Encyclopedia Britannica? What's it going to be? In the history books for all time, this is the report that's going to say why Trump faced impeachment, right?
This report will stand the test of time, Chris. It's just a question, will my Republican colleagues stand the test of courage?
Let me ask you about this Rudy Giuliani role. The fact that Rudy Giuliani was on the phone with the OMB, which controlled the funds, the arms aid to Ukraine, what does that tell you?
Well, Rudy Giuliani is Donald Trump's lawyer, so we proved in our case Donald Trump is Rudy and Rudy is Donald Trump, and they are inseparable. They are bonded together. You can throw almost everyone else under the bus if you're the president, and he has. But lawyers act on behalf of their clients, and almost every witness that knew of this relationship said that Rudy was acting as Trump's guy, and Trump told them on Ukraine, talk to Rudy, he's my guy.
House Democrats leading the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump on Tuesday released a report making their case against the president, saying he abused the powers of his office for personal political gain. Based on 100 hours of deposition testimony from 17 witnesses, the report concluded that Trump sought interference from a foreign power into the 2020 election when he tried to pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky into opening politically motivated investigations. Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff said the evidence was indisputable.
It involves a scheme in which Donald Trump withheld official acts, a White House meeting, as well as hundreds of millions of dollars of needed military assistance in order to compel that power to deliver 2 investigations that he believed would assist his re-election campaign.
Those investigations were into Joe Biden and the unfounded theory that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 U.S. election.
These people are deranged.
Ahead of the report's release, Trump, at a NATO summit in London, blasted the Democrats.
I think the Democrats should be ashamed of themselves. I think Adam Schiff is a deranged human being. And someday, hopefully in a very long distant future, you'll have a Democrat president, you'll have a Republican House, and they'll do the same thing because somebody picked an orange out of a refrigerator and you don't like it, so let's go and impeach him.
Democrats also concluded in the report that Trump obstructed the impeachment inquiry by instructing witnesses and government agencies to ignore subpoenas and publicly attacked and intimidated witnesses who testified about his misconduct.
If the Congress allows a president to so fully and blanketly obstruct the work of Congress, even involving an impeachment investigation into the president's own misconduct, then we are begging for more of the same. We are signaling to any future president they can engage in whatever corruption, malfeasance, or negligence, and they are beyond accountability. This is not about Ukraine. This is about our democracy. This is about our national security. This is about whether the American people have a right to expect that the President of the United States is going to act in their interests, with their security in mind, and not for some illicit personal or political reason.
In advance of the Democrats' findings, Republicans argued in their own report that Democrats had not established that Trump committed an impeachable offense, even arguing that the president was right to try to chase down the debunked conspiracy theory that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 race. The inquiry now moves to the House Judiciary Committee, which will launch its proceedings on Wednesday. That panel will hear public testimony from 4 legal scholars on what constitutional basis a U.S. president can be removed from office.